This is the most secretive weapon in America's arsenal. And when you see what it can do, you will understand why. On December 17, 1989, Northrop Grumman's B-2 Spirit made its first flight. The plane was designed to penetrate dense enemy airspace undetected and deliver ordnance with pinpoint accuracy. But it was until January of 1997 that the United States Air Force officially declared the aircraft combat ready. The B-2 Spirit is one of the most expensive weapons ever developed, with a per-unit cost of nearly $2 billion. To put into perspective, that's almost 3 times the price tag of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. This moniker came from the fact that the B-2's stealth technology was so advanced that radar operators would struggle to detect and track it. It would literally see nothing but a blip on their screens, similar to the way corpses appear in a morgue or boneyard. It was later renamed the Spirit because the designers wanted to evoke a sense of freedom and independence with the name. When outfitted with the AGM-158 JDAM, a cruise missile, which is the longest-range missile in the U.S. arsenal, the B-2 can strike targets more than 1,000 miles away. When combined with the B-2's own range, this gives the United States the ability to strike anywhere in the world on a moment's notice. And that's not even taking into account the B-2's ability to refuel in the air. The B-2's air-to-ground munitions can be pre-programmed to strike targets automatically, meaning that the plane doesn't even need to release its payloads directly over the target to hit it accurately. And it's likely that we'll see more of these bombers in the region in the coming weeks and months. At the end of the day, the B-2 is a testament to American ingenuity and innovation. This plane is the product of decades of research and development, and it remains one of the most advanced pieces of military technology ever created. Whether you love it or hate it, the B-2 is a game-changer that will continue to dominate the skies for years to come. All of this is made possible thanks to the plane's advanced targeting system, which uses a combination of GPS and inertial navigation to guide its weapons with pinpoint accuracy. But the plane's capabilities still live up to its original nickname. For instance, in November of 2018, B-2 bombers from the 393rd Bomb Squadron conducted an exercise over the Korean Peninsula in which they simulated strikes against North Korean air defenses. The plane can also be used for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions. But the reality is that the B-2 is one of the most versatile and capable bombers in the world. There's simply no other platform that can match its range, accuracy, and payload capacity. With the recent tensions between Russia and Ukraine, many experts believe that the B-2 will play an increasingly important role in the U.S. arsenal. Now that Russia has invaded Ukraine, the U.S. needs to be able to strike back with force if necessary. But they also need to do so in a way that minimizes risk to American lives. That's where the B-2 comes in. With its ability to penetrate Russian air defenses undetected, the B-2 is the perfect platform for carrying out sensitive strikes. The B-2's high altitude and loitering capabilities allow it to gather intelligence on enemy forces without being detected. Additionally, the plane's cameras and sensors can be used to monitor large areas of terrain, making it an ideal platform for border patrol and search and rescue operations. And just a few months later, in March of 2019, B-2 bombers from the 13th Bomb Squadron took off from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam and flew over the South China. These sorties were meant to send a message to China that the U.S. was prepared to defend its allies in the region. You see, the B-2 is the only bomber on Earth that can penetrate modern Russian airspace undetected. In other words, it's the only plane that can get close enough to Moscow to strike important targets while avoiding detection by Russian air defenses. As such, the B-2 has been dubbed the Boneyard Express. This is not an exaggeration. The B-2 can easily penetrate modern Russian air defenses. That being said, there's really no comparison between these two platforms. Even then, the B-2 is so stealthy that it remains extremely difficult to track. The plane has a maximum takeoff weight of 172,000 pounds and can carry a maximum payload of 34,000 pounds. When fully loaded, it can carry up to 27 tons of ordnance. In addition, the plane's 2 main weapon pods can be swapped out for different types of munitions, which gives it a great deal of flexibility. The B-2 can carry everything from small precision-guided bombs to large conventional bombs and nuclear weapons. With a wingspan of 172 feet and a length of 69 feet, the B-2 can carry more than twice the payload of the B-52 Stratofortress, the U.S. Air Force's oldest bomber. This means that if the United States were to send a B-2 on a bombing run against a high-value target in Russia, there's a good chance that it would get there undetected. If that wasn't impressive enough, the B-2's low observability extends beyond its skin and contours. Its engine emissions, heat, and infrared signature are also carefully managed to reduce the plane's overall visibility. In fact, the B-2 is so stealthy that some sources claim it could fly through a gap in the door of a hangar and nobody would ever know. For that eye-watering price tag, you get a plane that can fly for 30 hours straight without refueling. That's enough fuel to circumnavigate the entire globe. If you add in the 2 external wing fuel tanks, which can each carry an additional 21,000 pounds of fuel, the B-2's range becomes practically limitless. In other words, there is nowhere on Earth that the B-2 cannot reach. Since then, only 21 of these bombers have been built, making them some of the rarest planes on Earth. The real reason the U.S. has continued to invest in the B-2 over the years is because of its unparalleled penetrating ability. You see, modern air defenses consist of multiple layers. The outer layer typically consists of extremely long-range interceptors that can identify and engage incoming aircraft before they even enter hostile airspace. The second layer of defense consists of highly mobile short-range surface-to-air missile systems, or SAMs. These systems are normally hidden deep within the ground or buried among trees and buildings to make them harder to detect and destroy. These 2 layers of defense are what makes it so difficult for modern military aircraft to penetrate hostile airspace. But the B-2 was specifically designed to overcome these obstacles. In fact, the U.S. Air Force has been so tight-lipped about the aircraft that there were rumors circulating around the turn of the century that the B-2 had actually been canceled. But this couldn't be further from the truth. In recent years, these stealth bombers have taken part in numerous exercises across the globe, including operations over Europe, the Middle East, and even the Arctic. What's more, the United States plans to continue operating the B-2 until at least 2040. That's right. So why does the U.S. care so much about this bomber? It's because of 2 major factors: cost and capability. Let's start with the cost. But the bomber's incredible range is just the beginning. When the B-2 first entered service, it was dubbed the boneyard by the press. What's more, once it's inside Russian airspace, the B-2 is invisible to all but the most advanced radars. As if its stealth and range weren't enough, the B-2 also boasts impressive payload capabilities. But perhaps even more impressive than its payload capacity is the B-2's accuracy. So far, the B-2 has never actually been used in combat, but its capabilities have been put to good use during training exercises. Of course, the B-2's range and accuracy don't just make it useful for offensive operations. Some critics argue that the B-2's cost and complexity make it an unnecessary expense. The U.S. has already deployed B-2 bombers to Europe in an effort to deter Russian aggression. Now, you need to watch how the B-2 Spirit became the most secretive plane in the world, or check out this video instead.